Yeah. Do both of you live with your family?
Yep.
I do,
So,
yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, how you can never move out before
Yeah.
you're married.
Mhm.
But I'm living on my own right now in dorm.
Mhm. Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, that's kind of like moving out.
Yeah, I'm the first one out of my family to do it. So my mum's like super. Yeah, she calls me twice a day, every day.
Do you like dorming?
I actually really enjoy my own company, but I
Yeah.
hate my roommates. But the trash is kind of white people. Yeah.
Mm.
उन्होंने एक बाल्टी रखी हुई है जिसमें okay, so they fill it up with dish soap in the morning.
Mhm.
And they wash all the dishes in that balti the whole day. So imagine throughout the day, all the grease and stuff collects there.
That's gross. Yeah.
Yeah, and imagine subah, first thing I see is that. It really ruins
Yeah.
my mood.
सुबह उठ के उसमें से like मुंह धो लिया करो. Probably help.
Come on, pee lo.
But you know what's weird is like we get judged all the time for using lota.
I know, it's like, do you not wash your ass?
Yeah, exactly. And everything that's disgusting, but everything else is all right, you know.
Yeah, and now that it's catching on in the Western world, you know, it's called a bidet, it's super fancy, and it's like
Well, it's catching on in Europe.
America still has ways to go.
Over here in America, yeah, it's all toilet paper. People barely even use. Some people are moving on to those, you know, those moist,
Towelettes.
those towels. Yeah,
So
they're specially made to be flushable, so you can flush them down the toilet. And some people are using those, but most people they don't care. They just forget about gore. Like I had an Indian roommate. Even he was like super judgmental of it because I guess not every Indian uses a lota. So he'd be like, "Oh, toilet paper." I was like, "Dude, I thought Indians use the same."
yeah, I thought we had that solidarity and understanding.
Yeah, apparently not all of them. Welcome, everybody. In this episode, we'll talk about London. So we're taking you to the streets of London, and we have two guests on today. The first one is Kainaat, and she's 19 years old, and she was born and raised in London, right?
Yep, that's me.
Okay, so then the second guest is Saif, and he's 22 years old. He moved to London at 14. And where did you move from, Saif?
I've lived in Karachi all my life before that, so.
Okay, great. Yeah. So this will be interesting. The top country where we get the most listeners from right now on this podcast is UK.
Oh,
Interestingly, UK was, I think, number 3 or number 4 as of like 2-3 weeks ago, and it just jumped up suddenly, up above the US and above Pakistan as well. So now it's now the number 1 country.
wow.
So it'll be cool to give them a voice and get you guys some Instagram followers.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so you guys can tell us a little bit more about yourselves. Like,
I'm in third year of my uni. I go to this university called City University in London. I'm doing computer science. I don't have no goals, so there I am. It's kind of funny. Like I do not have anything specific in mind right now, which is really bad because I'm in my third year and people around me have like a clear idea of what they're doing and what they want once they graduate. Me, I'm just way too laid back, I suppose, and I have no idea what I'm doing.
Like you say laid back, I say nikumme.
That's that's like.
And by the way, these two know each other. They're friends in real life. So
I'm not just this mean.
she's not meeting him for the first time. That's why she can call him Nikamine. Anyway, I was going to mention actually that I could relate to just not knowing what you want to do in life. And oftentimes I think now that I have the benefit of hindsight, right, that I'm not in college anymore, it seems like people are confident and they know what they're doing. But actually, I wouldn't be surprised if most of the people around you aren't fully certain.
I guess so. Like people do seem to mask it well. Definitely something I've noticed, especially in university. If you actually ask them, or like kind of find out that they're literally in the same boat as you.
Yeah, I have to like sort of stick to my guns with my degree because I'm doing politics, so it's not very common for Pakistanis to take it. So when I was explaining to my mum what I can do, she's like, "Kaun si job milegi iske baad?" I really didn't know what to tell her. I was like, mil jayegi.
Yeah, you could be one of those ladies on ARY News fighting with all these uncles.
I'll tell you what, if my life goes to hell after my degree, that'll be my backup option.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, Kai, so go ahead with your introduction. You already kind of mentioned your major, but maybe a little bit more about yourself.
I'm studying
Are you really a
politics.
model?
No, not at all. Who told you that?
No, he asked me, and I just went along with it, and I told him, "You're a model, and you've got your headshots done."
I asked him because somebody had told me that. I think maybe he did tell me that.
It would do you well to never believe anything Saif says. So I'm studying politics. I go to a pretty good university, and yeah, I've moved out of my house for the first time in my life. I'm enjoying city life. I'm in central London right now. So I lived in the same small town my whole life. I was born there, raised there, went to school there, and this is the first time I've sort of ventured out. The town where I live is very Pakistani.
Oh,
It was basically like being in Pakistan.
wow. Yeah. What about your school? Is it mostly Pakistani kids or is it a good mix?
80%, I'd say, Pakistani. Same with my
Whoa.
neighborhood.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
no,
Yeah.
definitely. The rest were Indian, and then very, very few white people.
I thought it would be good for the listeners to know that Kai and Saf both met on Discord on our Pakistani servers. So they met online first, they became good friends, and then they met up in person. They're not dating, as far as I know.
Yeah,
I should make
yeah.
that clear.
I was going to comment on that, but yeah, sure.
They're actually
Like-
two from a group of people who met, right? The London crowd met, and they do meetups every
There's a
now.
bunch of us. It's because UK is much smaller, so it's much easier to meet people. Whereas, like, you know, but I think meetups in Pakistan would be quite hard. And then in America, for example, it's so big. I don't see how you'd cross the distance just to meet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then Dan from our last episode, he mentioned how he lives in the middle of nowhere. He lives like actually just I think 2-3 hours away from me, not too far, but I know where the direction that he lives at isn't very diverse. So he mentioned one of the reasons he joined Discord was to get closer and meet more Pakistanis online. So,
oh yeah, same. So
yeah,
the type of Pakistanis I grew up with were like very close-minded, and they gave me really negative perception of them, and to the point where I was a coconut. So do you know what that means?
oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I was very much out of touch with Pakistani culture. I kind of denied like anything to do with it, and then in January, after 5 years, I went to Pakistan, and I really, really enjoyed it. And that's when I decided, like, you know, what am I doing? So when I came back, I was looking for ways to connect to more Pakistanis, and that's how I ended up on the Discord server.
Mm-hmm.
I joined to shit talk, so that's my thing.
Wait, what's that? What did you say?
Yeah, I just said I joined to shit talk, and I didn't have anything in mind. So
He's really good at that.
Yeah, they let me in, and they, you know, let me do my thing, and here I am.
So yeah, we get all sorts of people. I think the only type of people we don't like are creeps. So if you're not a creep and you just want to make friends online who might potentially be living close to you, so you can meet up with them in person, make some real life friends possibly, then you should join our Discord community. I would recommend it because I was very similar to Kai actually. Growing up, Kainaat, like your age, around 18, 19, I had a very negative perception of my own people. I was very white from the inside, so. Like the place where I grew up was mostly white as well. So I started, you know, just kind of shunning Pakistani culture, music, everything. I just didn't want anything to do with it. And then over time, I just realized, hey, actually, they don't have to live close by, but they can be pretty open-minded. You can find them using the power of the internet.
That's the thing. Like, joining the Discord server totally changed my perception of it because there was so much diversity in views and the type of people you meet there. I mean, you get beginners like Saif, but also some really, really cool people.
Yeah, Saif is cool. He keeps our server alive, actually.
He does.
Yeah, in my own weird way, I guess I do that.
Yeah. We mentioned, Kainaat, you were born and raised in London, and you've gone back, what, once or twice?
I've been 3 times that I can remember. So for a short period of time when I was a baby, I was there. I went when I was 8, when I was 13, and just now, January. Oh,
wow. Okay. So what changed your perception this time around when you went back?
Okay, so the first 2 times I went with my dad. I'm from Jhelum, about an hour or 2 out of Islamabad. So the first 2 times I went with my dad, and he's from this really small, very Bandu village, and I just, oh god, I went for the first time, and so my dad and my mom, they painted these like really romanticized visions of Pakistan. Like, it's so green, there's fresh food, there's such a good community there. And when I went there, I was like, why is there cow poo everywhere?
Yeah. Saif, maybe he'll relate to it if he's from Karachi. I'm not sure.
No.
I do not relate to that. It's city life, so
That's,
yeah.
Well, Punjabi villages are especially like that.
I can, I guess, relate because my dad is from Kashmir and I've been there like 3 times, and that's basically what you mentioned, like the village life. So I sort of can't relate.
See, when I went this time, I actually found that quite quaint. I could see the appeal of that kind of lifestyle. I don't think I'd ever be able to live in Pakistan, but I feel like it's a nice sort of change for Westerners because our pace of life is so different. It's insane. It's so much pressure here.
And you know what's the weird part is? You go there in the beginning, you find it so odd. Why does it smell like cow poo? Why? The weird part is after those 2-3 months, you start liking it. You're like, oh my god, it smells like cow poop. It's awesome.
Okay, I don't know if I ever got to that point, but I did really like the atmosphere. And just okay, so when I was staying with my dad, because the village is super like tender and closed-minded, I was only like pretty much allowed within the house's 4 walls. But this time I did some more like traveling. My mom's really like relaxed. She's like, bazaar jao jo marzi karo. So I looked around a lot. One thing that really stood out to me about Pakistan is how much people stare.
How much people what?
They just stare.
Oh, staring. Okay, yeah.
But yeah, I traveled around the cities as well, and I thought, okay, so I hadn't been for 5 years, and obviously it has changed a bit since then. And I was a bit more open-minded this time around as well. I feel like definitely changed my perception of it.
Yeah. Did you have any restrictions, like you're not allowed to go outside?
So I find it very weird as like, so there I have to wear full shalwar kameez, dupatta. When you go to like bazaar, like sar pe bhi dupatta karo. And that's something I've never done here. Like other than when you go to the masjid, I've never worn a scarf here.
Astaghfirullah.
Oh god, yeah.
Role model Kai. Kids who are listening to her, please don't do that.
I think it's something I can get onto is I'm really not religious, so I've never identified with religion, and I find that sometimes conflicts with how Pakistani I want to be versus how Pakistani I can be. But I guess we could discuss that later. But yeah, I found that a bit weird. But it's like when in Rome, I found like that was part of my experience being super dizzy for those 2 weeks.
Yeah, very true.
But then when I got home, I did feel like a sense of relief. Like, wow, we have things that you take for granted in Western countries, like traffic lights, clean water.
Yeah, and to your point, over here, people don't stare as much, so perhaps that kind of mitigates the reason to.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I did go out without a scarf on my head once to like my village bazaar, and like you get stared at, so it makes you want to wear it,
Right.
just because you don't want that kind of attention.
Even the guys get stared at. Like I would get stared at. It's too good looking.
Yeah, I hate that when that happens to me.
What's your perception, Saif, going back to Pakistan, or maybe before that, I guess, coming to London and when you were 14? Like, was there a huge culture shock there?
Okay, so the thing is, prior to moving here and like settling down here, I had been here like 3 times. 2 of those were basically when I was like early in my early teens. So I kind of knew the stuff that goes around here. Like I wasn't like completely alien to it. So there wasn't much of a culture shock moving here, right? Like initially, I guess it happens when you're that age. It kind of happens when you start going to school, and then you basically realize how different things are. Because when you're in Pakistan, you obviously, even in your like an English medium school, you're used to basically speaking Urdu all the time. You move here, it's all like English and stuff, and you're not that confident in English. Like that's my personal experience anyway.
Right.
Culture wise, it wasn't that much of a shock. It's just like most of it came from my school life, which initially the first school I went to wasn't that great, to be honest. reasons. Because obviously I was new, so that's always a big thing.
Yeah.
Secondly, I wasn't that confident in myself or how I spoke, so I was initially very quiet and stuff. But I guess you just get used to it. So my parents are obviously probably took them more time, and I don't think they're completely, I guess, integrated yet.
I feel like they don't feel as much pressure.
Exactly, but as someone who goes to school and stuff and like interacts with people on a daily basis, it's a bit different, and you like kind of have to force yourself. So the accent is like a huge thing, I guess. Like initially, I suppose I had a really like Pakistani accent when it comes to English. So I wasn't. I'm not. I'm not saying like I was like forced to pick up on it if I did, but it like definitely was like a huge thing in the back of my head. Like I have to, start speaking in the way other people are speaking, just to, I guess, fit in, or I guess literally to not get laughed at school.
Oh, people can be quite cruel.
They are. Yeah, it's cool. So you kind of expect that.
But getting laughed at, is it mostly from other Pakistani people, or is it?
That's the actual thing. Like, okay, so the Pakistani people, so where I first like moved and like went to school in Sheffield, which is like northern, kind of like northern England. The basic thing is you don't expect that many Pakistanis to be there in northern England, I guess. But most of the people who kind of made it hard for me were the Pakistanis. I don't know. It was like that.
It's very similar in the United States too. The white people here, the Americans, they don't really care.
Yeah, exactly.
About your accent, right? At the workplace, at school. I've never really, maybe in high school or some of the more immature age groups, usually beyond high school, I've never seen that kind of ridicule at people's differences. The brown people here, they do put a lot of pressure on each other.
Exactly.
You fix your clothes, you don't look right. Or fix your hairstyle.
Yeah, I have no idea why they, like brown people, try to make it harder for each other. It's supposed to be the other way around, but
I actually did have it the other way around in that I was told, to stop trying to be white. Even my own dad, he was like, don't try and fit in with white people, because by the time you change so much that you realize you won't even be Pakistani enough to fit into your own community. That's something that really stuck with me. It's like sort of, what do I do? You feel like you've got one foot in each culture. But right now, it took a long time, but I feel like I'm really happy with the balance I have now. Yeah, so I can't, with the white people, you can never fully be, going out clubbing at 2 a.m. because that's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Or with Pakistani ones, like, the super conservative, like, just stay at home and make rotiyan. I was never fully down with that either. So it's about finding a balance for everything, I'd say. And finding what makes you happy, because, like you said, even if you do get sort of heckled for it, at the end of the day, if listening to Pakistani music makes you happy, then who cares what you think?
I think there's a certain age where you just stop caring about fitting in and just being more yourself. I don't know what that age is. I think it's different for every person.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you have struck a balance for like 3 years, but like once you go back, it's back to rotis. So
sad.
Well, within that joke, there is a point. What I've noticed in myself, Kai, you guys might experience that too, is I was just like you in the sense that I related more to the non-Pakistani side of my environment, and I chose to integrate more with non-Pakistani culture. It just kind of kept a distance, and then slowly over the years, it just became naturally more and more interested in my original background, just like trying to learn more about our culture. And now I'm like, I guess I would call myself maybe 50-50, but I think it's different for every person. Unlike you, I wasn't born in America, so I feel like I have more of a reason to relate to the place where I was born. Whereas you might settle at maybe 70-30, 70 English, 30 Pakistani.
So for me, it's like out of my siblings, I'm the only one who doesn't read Urdu. And it's like they tease me for it. I mean, they don't mean it seriously, but they tease me a lot. Especially because, I can never fully partake when they're all joking and laughing. I sort of, I felt bad. Like I felt like I should be able to pick up on stuff, especially like, jokes in Punjabi. Sometimes I don't get them. I just feel really left out. So I always thought like, just for the sake of fitting into my own family a bit more, Yeah, I wanted to get a bit more connected to it. Especially since, okay, so I told you the people I went to school with, they were very like the not great type of Pakistani, but I had a gap year between when I finished school and started university. And it's in that time when I was away from those kinds of people, I thought, okay, there must be something else out there. Yeah, that's when I found this balance of Western Pakistani culture.
Right. So, Saif, going to Pakistan, what's the longest you've been there when you went back?
So the thing is, I haven't been back since I moved.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's been 8 years. Yeah, 8 years. Little brother basically thinks he's gonna die if he goes to Pakistan. So
How old is he?
he's 15 right now. So I guess when he moved, he was like 7 or 8. So yeah, he is really paranoid about visiting. So he wouldn't visit Pakistan right now because he says he has exams next year. So he doesn't want to go now because he has to study, but all he does is play PlayStation all day. But that's an excuse for not going.
It's just an excuse, yeah.
हाँ, तुम तो बड़ा पढ़ते हो.
Okay, it's not about me. Okay, I'm talking about my brother here. Okay,
I'm really excited to go as well again because I enjoyed it so much this time, and I only went for 2 weeks. My mum went for the whole month, actually nearly 6 weeks, and she's like, just come for that long. And I was like, no, I don't think I'm gonna like it. And then she said you're gonna regret it, and I was like, yeah, right. And I really regret it. I had such a good time. So next time I do plan on going for longer, but I'm also a bit okay. So this is one thing I really didn't expect when I went to Pakistan. Rishte. Oh my god. People
Like your rishte?
Yeah, people don't have anything better to do. Oh
You're only 19.
I know that. My mom knows that. Yeah, they're just, and they're asking the most, oh yeah. They're like, aapki beti kya kar rahi hai abhi? And my mom's looking at them.
Oh man.
So that makes me a bit nervous to go back, but
Right. Would you guys be open to getting set up?
No, definitely not.
at this point, I don't care. I've given up.
Mil jayega koi.
Red boy, it's an invitation. Let's find Safa go.
I mean, all I asked for her to be alive. Like, what else?
She needs to be breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're only 22. You got time. Seriously.
Oh yeah, I was joking.
Yeah, you got like 5-6 years.
Not really though, because I'm scared. My mom's in Pakistan, so you never know what she comes back with in her luggage.
In her luggage.
Yeah, you never know.
Is halal a big thing there too in London?
Oh yeah.
Yep, it is.
There's a halal shop like on every corner.
It's literally crazy. Like literally everything is halal. Like I have like more butcher shops in like 10 minutes away from me that I had like in like the whole half of like Karachi. Like I literally can go out as like there's like 6 halal butcher shops, right? You go to Subway, even like that is halal.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, in my area, I guess major chains like I have like a halal KFC as well near me, like 10 minutes away from me. Yeah, it is a big thing, I guess. People do take it seriously. Like,
yeah, definitely.
Most of them, like no matter what are you doing, how religious you are, but like there's a thing that you have to eat halal. I guess like you can be literally like doing everything bad, but like apparently you have to eat halal. So
yeah,
it's not that big a problem in London as like finding halal food. Like it's literally everywhere.
I think also the way Pakistanis here tend to be is so I feel like in the US they're much more spread out, whereas here they tend to congregate in the same places. So with that you do get like the the halal shops, the desi clothes shops, everything sort of pops up, and that's a big complaint that not a huge complaint, but like it comes up in the media a lot that Pakistanis refuse to integrate, but it's because they're also drawn to those communities where everything they want is already available to them. And one thing that was funny though, in my hometown, it was very Pakistani, it was mostly Pakistani. There was a lot of pubs before, and a lot of them shut down because there was no one going to them. And then there was like small protests about that, like Pakistanis are taking over and putting local businesses out.
Yeah. It kind of happened here too. Basically, every now and then, halal store open up, sometimes under a franchise name like KFC or something. you'll get these protests. Oh, Muslims are trying to bring Sharia law into
Oh,
America.
yeah.
Sharia law everywhere. It's just a food place, man. Calm down.
I know. I feel like Americans get very hyper about stuff like that. Like there's just so much fear mongering in American society and
Oh, yeah.
politics.
Is that a big problem there too in London?
It was become, I'd say, since all these sort of terrorist attacks and things, there is more prevalence of really like negative views and like quite racist people. But at the same time, like there's a huge amount of people who like go against that and say no, you can't generalize people like that. There is more.
American politics have, I guess, had an impact here as well.
I think so. Yeah.
And I suppose people are more vocal now than before. But luckily, they are like only like vocal on internet.
It's quite a small minority of people as well.
It's not that harmful because most of them do their stuff on internet, which doesn't really amount to anything at the end because you just ignore it. But yeah, American politics are definitely like impacted. I guess
I'd say the thing that people here really don't like is that it's not super common, but it is fairly common enough to note. So there's a lot of women here who do like niqab, including like the covering of the face, and people have a really big issue with that to the point where like they can be quite hostile.
Yeah.
And there's been like protests and things about how they should make that illegal. That and also mosques. So people have this like since this whole sort of ISIS business and extremism, they say like mosques should be regulated and stuff. And that's caused a lot of backlash and sort of like misunderstanding between different communities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Americans are still trying to figure out what's the difference between Muslims and Sikhs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you guys are a few years behind.
You still got a while to go.
Yeah, I feel like if there's bigots in London, they're probably more educated than the bigots here in America. So.
Oh, yeah, definitely. They know what they're hating.
Our bigots are sophisticated.
Yeah.
They know what they hate.
Yeah.
They just see someone brown and like, oh my god.
It's like knowing someone you hate is like half the battle, so.
Yeah, educated hate, right?
Yeah, basically.
Have you heard of Bradford?
What?
Have you heard of Bradford?
Oh, no.
Or Luton?
No, I don't.
Yeah, that's the thing. Basically, we don't really help, what you mentioned about cleaning image, like cleaning, like keeping a clean image. We don't really help ourselves either.
No.
If you think about it. Because we do have like literally hate preachers in UK, like just basically roaming around preaching, I guess.
I've seen people like even in my own hometown, but also I've seen documentaries of like Pakistani Muslim like extremists trying to advocate for Sharia law in the UK. Yeah, it is actually quite scary. More often than not, like.
And the thing is, like, it's the people who live here and are born here. They get like caught up in it, and that's really like
quite scary.
Yeah, it's quite scary because it's not the people who move here or like haven't lived here all their lives. It's the people who are actually born here, and like how they're supposed to be.
Sociological studies just usually second generation.
Yeah, exactly. And it's scary how easily they're like manipulated into like extremism.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. We don't really help ourselves either. So
no, it's really not helping.
I love to complain about it.
Yeah, that's an ongoing phenomenon here too, actually. And I think it's something that needs to be studied more. It's not studied enough, but kids who are born and raised in the West, and then they grow up and they completely kind of
go the other way.
Yeah, exactly. They just kind of reverse to the other side, and they go into one extreme. And I think there's a big contributor to that is just the fact that growing up, they get probably a lot of shit for being of a certain color or a certain background without even knowing. I know that when 9/11 happened, I had no clue that religious extremism was even a thing. I was only like 12 years old or 11. One day we were all watching the TV and we saw 9/11 on while at school. Our teachers turned it on and we just stopped studying. That whole day we did not study anything. There was no class. We just watched TV, and everybody was united. Everybody was just like, what the hell just happened, right? And then the next day I came into school and people were pointing at me, the teachers too, not just the kids, pointing
Wow.
at me, like staring differently. I was like, what the heck happened? So in one day, my life really changed a lot, and I think it changed how people started reacting to me for several years.
That's really sad.
Yeah, all the way till the end of high school at the very least, and beyond that too, of course. But especially in the school atmosphere, I just started locking myself in my house more and playing video games all the time. Yeah, I just stopped interacting with people as much as I used to, and essentially,
Yeah.
I just kind of
So
kept
I
to
guess you
myself.
became more introverted rather than looking for different kind of type of company.
Hmm. Once I moved out of New York City, I was in a very not even suburban, it was more of a rural town, kind of like a farmer town with mostly white kids. And yeah, it was a different environment. It was very different.
Were
So,
they nice?
like I said, there was a clear change in people's behavior after 9/11,
Yeah.
and that kind of shaped my childhood. I think,
That's
and I think it shapes a lot of people's childhood. A lot of the kids that Saif is talking about who were born and raised in America or London,
but they feel like outcasts still.
they're like 15-year-olds, and they
Don't know what to believe.
exactly, yeah, and lots of the beliefs they have, which I often say that's too young to have any solid opinion on anything serious,
Yeah.
right? You should not be preaching to people at 15. You should be learning. You should be learning all the way till 30, and then maybe open your.
Also, the thing that I don't know, they tend to be more in touch where I guess their religious side for some reason than their cultural side. Like they
Yeah.
would like I guess like not speak a word of their mother tongue and like not have a clue about their own culture, I guess, and their background. They would like literally know all the I guess the extremist stuff about the religion. One good thing about culture, like that kind of in some cases kind of saves you, like
Oh yeah.
being in touch with your culture.
Hmm. Yeah, and of course, religious knowledge. I think it's if consumed properly,
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
not just for Islam; it's for any religion. If consumed properly, you actually be a decent human being. I feel like all religions have basic, compatible, and overlapping qualities. They all
Yeah.
say don't steal, don't kill, don't these are all great things, and some actually need that kind of direction to ensure that they don't end up doing terrible things.
I guess it's when people lose that sense of morality, or when that that gets twisted. So obviously, the way extremists groom these kids is by telling them that they're right.
And these awesome little kids are being born and they're being subjected to this really hostile, strange world where they're being shunned from all angles. They can't relate to Desi culture because they weren't born in their home, in their motherland. And they can't relate to Western culture because, kids make fun of their color or their background, for whatever reason. So it's a very confusing time to grow up nowadays, I think.
I did find that really unfair when I was growing up, that I was expected to be really desi and know everything about Pakistani culture, even though I'd never set foot in Pakistan. Yeah, and it does sort of make you feel a bit left out, I guess. Especially like I said, in family gatherings and stuff. Utne baithne ka, as they expect you to just know everything. But obviously, if you've never experienced that kind of situation in your life, how are you meant to fit in?
I mean, it has its disadvantages, but the thing is, when you move at like a certain age, like I did, it's a thing like you've already consumed everything you can as
culture wise.
Culture wise, like the Desi culture, I suppose, and then just like you only have to consume the other side of it. Like you don't have to necessarily have to, you have no pressure.
Yeah, at one point I was so like totally out of touch. My family used to affectionately call me the Jew.
Affectionately.
Yeah, they still do.
That's what my dad does to my little brother. He just calls him a Christian.
Gore ka bachcha.
Exactly.
My mom does this a lot. She says this, Ameriki na bano, Musalman bano.
Yeah.
Like, you can be a Muslim American. She's like, nee, Musalman bano to Ameriki na bano. But I think what she really means is like American qualities are non-Muslim.
Yeah, I feel like parents really have that fear as well. This sort of fear that their culture will get lost through generations. And I feel like Pakistani parents particularly can be quite tough on their kids about that. Yeah, so they can put a lot of pressure on them. Very, 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 very good Pakistani, to the point where it can actually hinder them from integrating into their new culture.
Yeah, it can be scary for parents, I think.
With my little brother, they're obviously a bit more careful, and they're like, always telling him, what to do and what not to do, and like,
Mhm.
in schools, like only be friends with people like Pakistani, or like Muslim,
Oh my
friends and
god,
stuff.
my dad used to say that to me. He's like, गोरे कालों के साथ hello hi रख लो लेकिन पाकिस्तानियों के साथ दोस्ती करो.
Yeah, he's like just roam around with Pakistani people and like stick with your own, I guess, whatever stuff like that. So with my little brother, they're definitely like that because he's 15, so he's like still growing. And me and my other brother, who's 18, we're basically, they trust us enough to, I guess,
Make good decisions.
yeah. So we're not gonna, mess up big time.
Thanks, Kai. Thanks, Saif, for joining. This was really good.
Thanks for having
Thanks
me.
for having us.